Day one, introduction to project management. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with understanding the map. So the objectives for day one is to understand the foundational concepts of project management, differentiate between a project, program, and a portfolio, learn how projects integrate with operations, and identify the role of project management within organizations. So what is project management? And for those who aren't in project management currently and are just doing this, getting out of another industry, you'll be surprised, or not surprised, but you'll truly gain a grasp of what it means to be a project manager within this chapter. So, at its core, project management is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to meet the objectives of a specific endeavor. Think of it as orchestrating a symphony where each instrument, tasks, resources, stakeholders must harmonize to create success, right? And so you're the orchestrator. You're not the person playing the instruments, but you're making sure that everybody that's playing the instruments are playing them in tune with the path that you are trying to move. And so key characteristics of a project: one, unique output, right? Projects create something distinct, whether a product, service, or result. The next characteristic is two, temporary nature. Projects have a defined beginning and end. An example of this is constructing a bridge, right? You have a finite amount of time in which you must construct it. And then three, progressive elaboration. Plans and details evolve as the project unfolds. Example of this is developing software features incrementally. And so this will be a little bit more on the waterfall slash agile methodology side, but you'll see this as we move throughout the chapters. Projects versus operations, right? Understanding the difference between projects and operations is critical for this exam. Projects are temporary and unique, and I would remember this because this is one of the things that people often get misconstrued, and you need to understand this as a project manager. Projects are temporary and unique, and operations are ongoing and repetitive, right? So your operations managers are going to maintain those day-to-day functions, whereas the projects provide the functionality to begin with. And so an example that I put down here in the book says maintaining a service call center represents an operation, right? Maintaining it represents an operation, as it involves ongoing activities to ensure consistent service delivery, such as answering customer inquiries, managing call volumes, and monitoring performance metrics, right? Whereas a project would be to launch this call service center, right? Because it's a temporary endeavor with a defined start point and end. It focuses on creating a unique deliverable, right? And it includes tasks such as selecting a location, procuring equipment, hiring and training staff, setting up processes and technology, right? These are all things that are part of a project, but these are all finite things, right? You're going to do this one time. You're not going to do it ongoing. It's not going to be something that's ongoing and repetitive. So always remember that operations are what manage the functionality for the company, whereas projects provide the functionality for the company. So I have a comparative table right here below. If you're looking at the book, projects versus operations, a comparative table. It has the aspects, right? Nature, output, purpose, management, focus, examples, and end date. And then it has the projects and operations and the differences between the two. And so you'll see, like I said, temporary and unique versus ongoing and repetitive, right? Projects deliver specific goals. Operations maintain business functions. All right, these are important things of note, and make sure that you're going through this and gaining a deeper understanding of the difference between the two. So moving forward and seeing how projects fit into the big picture. So we have programs and portfolios. Projects don't exist in isolation. They're often part of broader organizational strategies, right? Programs are a group of related projects managed in a coordinated way to achieve benefits not available if managed separately. And so an example of this is a digital transformation program that might include upgrading IT infrastructure, which is one project in itself, right? And then implementing CRM software and training employees, which are all projects in themselves, right? And so they work together to create this digital transformation or broader scope for the company, achieving broader goals for the company, right? So that digital transformation, often that's going to allow people to stay competitive within their market and stay up to date with the software is used in the industry. So portfolios. Portfolios are a collection of programs, projects, and operations managed together to achieve strategic objectives, right? An example of this is a tech company's portfolio might include programs for product development, customer retention, and market expansion. And so one way to think of this is when you talk about achieving strategic objectives, right? You're achieving objectives that's going to allow you to stay competitive within the marketplace in which you're, or industry in which you're operating within. And so portfolios are going to comprise of all three things: projects, programs, and operations. Make sure that you remember that. I have a comparative table down below if you're reading the book, and it's going to help you truly understand some of the concepts that I'm speaking about, but also understand the difference between the three. So With that being said, we're going to talk about the project life cycle, right? So every project follows a life cycle, a high level structure that guides this journey from start to finish. And the easiest way to convey this is talk about building a home, right? Initiating, define objectives, identify stakeholders, and create a project charter. You can have the planning phase, which is develop a roadmap for achieving the project goals. Executing, where you perform the work to deliver outputs. Monitoring and controlling, which you track progress and make necessary adjustments. And then closing, where you finalize all the activities and formally close the project. An example of this is building a new home, right? Following these stages, you plan a design, acquire the permits, construct, inspect, and hand over the keys at the end of it, right? And so that's the important thing is you gotta relate some of this information to something that you can conceptualize, something that you can grasp. And I think building a home is this perfect one. I got my little minions over here running around. So project environments and organizational structures, right? Projects exist within organizational contexts that shape how they are managed, right? You have a functional organization, teams who are organized by functions, i.e. marketing, IT, logistics, etc., HR, right? Projects may struggle for resources in this structure. And then you have projectized organizations that are teams that are dedicated to projects. The project manager has full authority, right? And so the difference between the two is that you have the functionality within an organization that is focused on one industry, one part of the industry, or one part of the functionality for a company. And so they may struggle for resources in this structure if they're not prioritized. And that's one of the things, right? As a company, you're going to prioritize certain functions in the company over others just based off the needs. And so you may be underfunded depending on which one you fall within. Projectized organizations is where you have a dedicated team for each project. And sometimes you may not have the same team for each project, but you know that as a project manager, these people are dedicated to this project. They are going to be underneath my full authority, and I'm going to be able to navigate and place them and pull them and push them where I need to. And then you have a matrix organization. And that's what you're going to see in most organizations where you have a hybrid team where members report to both functional and project managers, right? And so you're going to have somebody who's working with not only their marketing function, right? Their VP of marketing or whoever their boss is within the marketing function. And then you'll have somebody who reports to the project manager when they're working on a specific project, right? And space and time. So an example is in a construction project, architects typically serve in a functional role, focusing on design, compliance with building codes, and ensuring the project aligns with the aesthetic and structural standards. They operate within their specialized domain, often reporting to a functional manager. Whereas contractors, on the other hand, take on project roles, managing the operations and coordinating subcontractors, procuring materials, and they do activities that adhere to the project schedule and budget. But in a matrix structure, these two distinct roles collaborate closely, sharing information and working towards the project's common goal. So that's important, right? Excuse me. But that's important, right? Working together and communicating between the two is going to be the best way to be effective within the project, because you're going to need to use different functions for different projects a lot of the times. And so that's going to help you communicate the needs, but also stay on track when it talks about who you should bring in, right? Who's a stakeholder within this? And these are all stakeholders, right? People who are invested, people who this affects, people who will be working on the project itself. What do you need to do in order to be effective as a team? And a lot of times in a matrix organization, you have that cross-functional top, and it's going to allow you to be effective a lot. It's going to allow you to be a lot better with this because you're not, because it allows for communication to flow a little bit easier. So a practice example, right? Transitioning from operations to projects. Imagine you're a restaurant manager overseeing daily operations. So daily operations means you're an operation manager. The organization decides to open a new location. The shift, right? Planning the launch, hiring the staff, marketing the grand opening is a project. It's temporary, has clear objectives, and requires unique deliverables for opening day success. And this is one way I want people to convey their information, right? Because if you're a manager of a restaurant, you don't think, oh, maybe I am project manager, right? Maybe I have done projects and I've led projects. If you were to say you're opening a new location, right? Because you're a project manager, you're a restaurant manager that the owner has come to trust, and they see your value and they're saying, hey, I trust you to launch this for us. Now you're in a situation where you're technically a project manager, and that's information that you can convey on your application in order for you to get approved to take the PMP exam. So make sure that you guys are taking notice of that information and applying it to yourself. It's important. So key terms for day one, right? We're finally kind of winding down on day one. You have project, program, portfolio, and project lifecycle. I'm not going to go through each one because you guys know what they are. We just covered them, so I don't want to insult your intelligence, but they are listed below there for you if you want to review them again. And then we're going to get into some practice questions for day one. And so that leads us to the end of day reflection. So today we finally finished. Take a moment to consider how projects you've been in, professionally or personally, align with the definitions and characteristics you learned today. Can you map their phases to the project lifecycle? Tomorrow, we'll explore the PMI talent triangle and its role in project management success. So I can't wait to see you tomorrow. Make sure that if you still want to study, you use these resources that I have down below. It's a processing map game, and it's going to play big. It's going to pay dividends if you actually go through the processing map game and you get better with it each. My bad. You go through the. I know, baby. I know. You go through the process mapping game, and you get better with it each week, because what it'll do is it helps you learn the process within traditional, understanding what process goes where and when you're going to execute each process. So with that being said, go ahead and scan that QR code, study the process map game, at least do it one time. And then you have flashcards that have 200 terms and what you should learn in order to understand project management terms. And the language itself, is going to pay dividends, because one, if you start to learn and understand the information and language and terms now, when I teach them, you already have an introduction to the term itself, and it's going to be a little bit easier for you to understand what I'm saying and how I'm conveying information. So make sure that you're doing both of these after each day, because as you start to understand not only the information that we go through in the chapter, but this information, you're going to be better for it. And so you're going to be leaps and bounds ahead of your peers. And so with that being said, we have finally finished day two. Make sure you like and subscribe. I appreciate you guys making it through day one. And today was the first step towards finishing your 30-day project management professional book. And so this is going to be your step and your journey to the PMP certification. Take it seriously. And I'll see you tomorrow on day two.